Morgan would be 30. She passed away 24 years ago. After Morgan died, my husband was very compelled to get involved and see if he could bring meaning to what we had been through as a family.
Connor is a lover. He constantly walks up to me all day long. Mom, I need a hug. Mom, I need a hug. Yeah, big feelings.
Beckett is a wild, crazy, fun kid. He has this huge energy.
He is so magnetic. He lights up the room. He's a big personality.
Paxton was a silly little boy who loved trains.
Paxton had a really big heart too. He was such a small kid, but he had a big heart, and he affected a lot of people in the 3 short years that he was on Earth.
Morgan, she was like a normal kid. She brought a lot of sunshine into our world, and I feel her. I still, it never goes away. I talk about her a lot. I spend a lot of time with a lot of families who are going through really painful kinds of things, and you relive it.
We did the CT scan, and he came out in his black vest with the gold writing on it that said oncology, and it was like, oh no, this is not going to be okay. So.
Your son has retinoblastoma. God, it was the single saddest, scariest moment of my life. He felt so tiny, and he just felt so vulnerable.
We went into the hospital, did his blood work, and they told us almost immediately that he had leukemia. You just don't think it's real, and I remember just standing there thinking this isn't possible.
I just remember thinking, like, please God, don't take him from us.
I was naive to think that, the medical community can fix everything. So I figured that, okay, so there's a tumor in his head, let's just get rid of it.
It's hard as a young parent to be stripped completely of your hope. So the motivation to actually formalize the foundation itself was really the fact that there wasn't enough funding for pediatric cancer research. So when Stephen said he wanted to make a difference, it really was, how do we help effect change for kids with brain tumors? And so we sat down with Nick and said, what can we do? What do you really need? And he said, I need to support my bench science program. I need money for research.
Well, Morgan Adams was a patient, and I was her treating physician. And this was very early on in the founding of the program. And Morgan, sadly, was a child who needed much better therapy. And that therapy didn't exist. Without the initial funding from Morgan Adams, this whole enterprise wouldn't exist.
Back then, there was one kind of medulloblastoma, and they treated it with a type of, they had a standard of care chemotherapy regimen, and it had about a 50% cure rate. 20 years later, they've done all the genetic testing and the sequencing and the identification. There are 4 types of medulloblastoma, 2 of which are 85 to 90% curable, one of which is still about 50%, and one that's slightly less than 50% curable. So there's been significant advancement in 20 years.
With the help of this lab and many others, we're actually moving on to therapies which are much more directed, much more targeted, and affect less the whole of the child's body and mind, for that matter. So I think it's not just about improving cure rates, it's about ensuring that children will grow up with the best quality of life.
We've had a great track record of, small amounts of money that we got from Morgan Adams, resulting in $1 million, $2 million, $3 million research grants from the federal government. And the fact that Morgan Adams funds us is that we're able to study things in a really deep detail and really then take that understanding and say, okay, now we know why that particular tumor is doing that.
The fact that Connor has both eyes today really is a testament to the research that's come before. 30 years ago, if you had retinoblastoma, they removed your eye, no questions asked.
Eli's story is not likely to change, and that's an unfortunate thing for us to sit here and say. But our hope with working with the Morgan Adams Foundation is that it changes for somebody else, and no one else has to sit here and give an interview about their child going through cancer.
Stuff that we used to do as research and showed the value of it is now done routinely across at Children's. It's not even considered a research tool anymore. What we're about is turning our research into something of everyday application that will give hope, give new avenues of therapy to every single child.
Funds become hope because funds drive the research, and I like to tell people research is hope in action.